And let's dive in. During our last episode, the Guild of Unifiers, which is made up of members of the other guilds in Miranzan, was celebrating and helping out during the Festival of Remembrance, which the Arch-Chancellor has redubbed the Festival of Reclamation, which is held every year in the 15th month on Thala, which celebrates and commemorizes the fall of the human and dwarven populations in Thala to a mysterious plague for which a cure was not found. Of sorts, one was found, in a sense, for some of the remaining humans, in that they could live out their lives as undead with their memories and personalities intact as vampires. However, during the celebration, in what was supposed to be a display of a new creation by the Guild of Makers, the Fireflowers, which they have created, explosions began to ring out through the city. Fires starting everywhere. Unknown assailants, or at least unknown to some people, but known to others, were attacking the festival goers, and there was an enormous green-colored arcane explosion which lit up the sky in one of the field of growers right near to where the wall which separated the old human and dwarven quarter had been constructed. In the midst of some heady combat and having just successfully dispersed a group of these attackers wearing these cloaks, which are made out of different strips of fabric. These specific individuals wearing cloaks which were of three colors, a sort of purple, an off-white, and a burnt yellow, in three stripes. The group was swiftly gathered up by Lady Meshante, the Archfey of the Undying Court, who is the guild leader of the Guild of Keepers, to which Lady Salome is a part of. Whisked away by magic in an instant to the guild headquarters of the Keepers, the Unifiers stood before Lady Shan, who is the head of the Guild of Unifiers, and she uttered the words, "We have a very, very big problem." And it is there that we pick up our story today. You have arrived from the heat of this battle, and you can see that Lady Shan has a few marks of, shall we say, soot, etc. on her face, as you can see that she had likely been helping with some of the fires and against some of the other assailants and attackers. And she has a look on her face of extreme worry. She says to all of you, "I don't really know how to explain this. Meshante, if you would." And she floats up to Lady Shan and puts a hand on her shoulder. Lady Meshante, as always, dressed in her sort of skin-tight leathers, which cover almost every part of her skin, her porcelain mask with green eyes in sort of the comedy and tragedy style, but with a big smile on the face, and her crown of leather pieces and the leather cloak flowing down her back. And she says, "Yes, I suppose it's my headquarters. I should probably tell you exactly what happened. Well, those people that we had been tracking for a couple of months, the ones that had been causing these disturbances, this group of dissidents, I'm sure as you all saw, they seem to be responsible for whatever the attacks were today. But, and she looks at Lady Sean, we don't believe that the attacks were their main goal, as it were. We have precautions which we set up here at the Guild of Keepers for some of our much older records, shall we say. They require a magical atmosphere to maintain their stability. They are available to access by the public if they do so choose. However, it requires an enormous amount of effort. So, usually one would make an appointment to come and see these archives, and it could take up to a month to actually be able to access them, but they should be able to without a problem. The chamber itself also houses some of our most important relics and roughly 1,100 or so sleeping vampires. Those which choose to either spend some time away from their affliction in a state of hibernation, or those who desire to simply not exist in that state until perhaps a cure could be found for the plague and they could be returned to their former selves. But the facility is available to all those who are vampiric in nature. As you can imagine, we seal this area of the guild off from entrance with extremely powerful magics. There is no way to enter into any of the chambers unless 2 of 3 people in Mirandon are able to open the magical barrier which separates the entrance. Those 3 people would be myself, Lady Shan, and Lady Oxala. However, during the attacks, certain safeguards I have in place began alerting me to the fact that somehow people have gotten past the barrier, and this should be impossible.
That's not good.
It would mean that they either have powerful magic or they have some sort of inside help.
Or a benefactor that I guess more ancient than even the keepers know about.
Have you checked? Are the vampires still there?
We have checked, and the barrier is still in place. But,
Well, that's not the same thing.
well, my dear, I imagine that if the vampires were out, we would know.
Maybe.
I imagine you would.
Did you check what records, if they took any records?
We have not been inside as of yet, and Sean sort of steps forward and says, This is a lot to ask of you on this day, but we cannot check ourselves. The barrier that separates the entrance, it requires an enormous amount of arcane energy to bring down. and an enormous amount of focus. Both myself and Lady Meshante or Lady Oxala would need to focus on 2 points for an extended period, and even then we would only be able to keep the barrier down for 1 hour.
Out of curiosity, even like let's say if they were able to somehow get in to past the barrier into the vault of sorts, do you think the assailants could possibly got in, but they possibly could still be in there because they couldn't get out?
Well, the alarm did not go off that long ago, so I am hoping that they are still inside. There are many powerful objects and artifacts which we keep inside the area, not to mention the countless lives which we are safeguarding. If they are inside, locate them and deal with them.
Well, if you can't get inside, how can we get inside?
There'd be the gatekeeper and the door opener, and we're going to be the ones that they go. As like, just imagine if 2 golems have to push open the door and hold open the gate for us. We walk through. Necessarily, there are 2 golems holding up the gate for us.
What happens if we can't do it in an hour?
Then it closes, and they probably have to wait a day for them to recover, and then they come back and open it up for us again.
1 week.
A week.
Yeah,
1
wait.
week.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
Then-
I have magic to help us survive a week if need be. But you know what? We're felons. We're guildmates. We specialize in high tense on time sensitive missions.
It's true. This is what we have been chosen to do. This sort of response to emergency. It's what we've trained for and prepared for. But if we have what we need for provisions and survival in the worst case scenario of being trapped for a week, I say time is of the essence and we should go.
True. And worst case scenario is we're just going to be eating mushrooms and drinking water the whole time because I can create water, and we already got our own mushroom farm right here as he pats on Chalk. Worst case scenario.
Just in case, I do have at least something that I can give you before you make this entrance. And she, with a flick of her wrist, produces 2 scrolls and hands them to Lady Salome. You should be able to recite the incantations there, and at least each of these scrolls will allow you a temporary domicile for 24 hours. You have 2, so if you are trapped in there for a week, at least you will be able to spend 2 days in relative comfort and safety.
I appreciate that. Though I do want to make a request before we go. If you remember, I met a fellow noble, and I want to at least figure out what had happened to her, so that I could give the peace and the blessing that is required for her family, if that is okay.
The body which you had transported with you has been laying there.
I am going to cast, let's see, what's that spell? I'm going to cast Speak with Dead.
All right.
So basically, let's see, I can ask it up to 5 questions.
Indeed.
And yes. um my first question is, what are you doing? What were you doing before you were killed?
A question for you. Are you casting this? I do not know if this is a ritual. I think you might be able to cast
It's
it as
at
a
will.
ritual. At will. Interesting. All right. Okay. So you describe to us how this looks when you are casting
So
it.
I basically a lot of my powers, a lot of my spells have um uh flowing colors of blue and pink and purple accents to it. So it goes from my right arm, and it just sort of flows from my fingers, and it little sparks of life, sort of not real life but like a semblance of it, go into her eyes, into her heart, and then you can see slight movements, not a lot because it's not a very powerful spell, but it is enough to animate her face. So she can only really move her face to answer my questions. She's still lying there. I've at least, tried to like make her look presentable so she's not just splayed out, you know, looking dead. But yeah.
The head of the noblewoman who was identified as the third daughter of Matron Fowler turns from its laying position to one side and kind of snaps to the side a little bit. And the eyes blink open, but they have an unfocused sort of look on them, and her mouth opens. And restate your question again.
What were you doing before you passed on?
Making a statement.
Who killed you?
The head sort of tilts and scans itself from side to side. One of you guild filth.
I have Do you guys have any questions? Because I have 3 more questions, and one of them is gonna be guild filth. That I don't want to waste our questions on that, but my question would be, excuse me, guild filth. That is gonna be one of it. So
All right,
I don't.
I just take I take the last
literally-
one.
I literally mouthed guild filth. What? So I'm on the same page as you are.
Yes.
Like guild filth, like the guild filth in this room, guild filth, or like generally guild filth?
Yeah, like
Alright.
a
You can ask
specific
her
guild of
on.
all the guilds.
You can
Because it's a
ask
lot
her.
of
Okay.
people. It's a lot of people.
Just want to
You can
make
ask-
sure, because that's what. Yeah, what were you saying, dude?
You could ask her whose statement were you making? Because I'm like, I remember
That's
her at the
true.
ball. She used to not be like that. So someone had to talk to her after it had to be, some point from as long as I've known you, and Lady Salome. Because I'm like, I remember when she was, a life of the party, and she had fun with the rest of her family, and she seemed to
Mm.
like us back then. Because I've always been part of the guild.
You are thinking of a different person.
Bro,
You
my
are
bad,
thinking of Lady Philandria.
my
Eh,
bad.
Okay, never mind.
Uh,
I'm gonna go.
Or whose
By
statement?
guild filth, do you mean somebody in this room or someone part of a guild?
There is an odd sort of tugging at the corner of one of the corners of her mouth, and forms a bit of a smile and says, "Yes."
Stupid question. I have two more.
What if we asked her where she was going next after this? What was her next destination?
like before she passed away?
Yeah, where was she trying to go to after she was done here?
Yeah, after her statement, what is she going to do next?
Yeah.
Planet
was she-
Ein, Object 2.
All right. All right, sure. Before you had passed away, after you had made your statement, if you weren't killed, that's a lot of stuff. What were you going to do next? A lot of caveats.
The crooked smile is still there, and she answers, "Something else."
Ay, bitch.
Seriously. Um,
Can I just go? What is the name of the person who killed you? What if she doesn't know?
She doesn't know all of your names, and also I, as a DM, can't remember who struck the final blow against her
It
specifically.
was Galiza. But we already asked that question. That was question 2. She said it was one of us.
No, I asked her if it was one of us or somebody else, and she just said yes.
for guild filth, not who killed her.
Who killed her? She looked around the room and she said, "One of you killed me." And then she said,
Oh,
"Guild
she
filth."
said- No, she said guild filth, right? DM,
Yeah.
can you remind me what she said in the beginning?
Yes, she said, "One of you guild filth."
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
Want to ask her for consent if we can keep her sword?
No.
We're gonna take her sword no matter what.
She
yeah.
was not the one with the sword. The sword belonged to the big fella. You did not take that body, but you
No.
did take the sword.
Oh, shoot. I thought she was the big fella.
Nope.
So I'm like, wow, she's big for a drow. I thought drows were supposed to be short, but apparently she
Well-
was massive. I'm like, oh, damn.
Well, if she's friends with the people who might have broke in here, maybe ask her to see if she knows what they're after.
Do you know what the people who broke in here were after? Damn it. It's the wrong question. Whatever. It's fine. I already
As-
know how this is gonna happen.
As a kind DM,
The
I
answer
will
was
allow you to I will allow you to rephrase that question if you would like, because they're under no obligation to answer you truthfully or to answer you necessarily. And one of you did kill her, so
one of us. Well, at least now I know. All right, cool.
One of us. It was you.
if you would like to rephrase that question, you totally can.
We can't point fingers here, Sashi. Come on.
We still have the opportunity to ask the question, though.
Who's your boss's name?
Why did
I
they
want the head.
actually? If I say what was the statement you were going to say, or why did they kill you? Do you think would that help? I'm asking the rest of the crew.
I guess what was the statement, like what you guys were trying, what's the statement you're trying to say? And they'll probably say something about that I'm pretty sure we got the statement on by saying we're guild filth. So he's like, so they automatically don't like us. So that I was like, and we also found that paper that says the guilds are a lie.
What do
and
you
I'm like,
think, Thala?
I think if we ask her a question of something that she was going to say anyway,
Right.
she'd be more likely to answer us truthfully.
We could also take a gamble and ask her something that implies that we know something we don't. We could ask her what they were going to do with the undead, as if we already know they have them, and see how she responds. It's a tricky game.
All right.
I just worry that we're asking, can she actually hear us? Strategizing.
I have to ask her, right?
Mm-hmm. You have to ask her directly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So good. Dude, I'm sorry to interrupt you. But I think you're right in regards to what she's gonna say already. It's probably you guild filth or something. I do like the idea of tricking her into maybe admitting that she was part of the plot.
I would give you inspiration if it requires a deception check, DM.
It could. Depends on what you say. Could be a
All right.
deception or persuasion. Who knows?
All right. What were you
Inspiration.
going? Sweet. What were you going to do with the undead?
She looks at you quizzically. And she says, let me see what she says. Make a persuasion check. And you may use Dew's inspiration. Is it a D10 now or a D8?
It's a wonderful D10.
A D10. All right.
Add a D10, add it to your roll.
All right. I got 10 on the die plus my persuasion of 9, so that's 20. I'm gonna keep.
Keep the inspiration?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep the inspiration for. Oh, well, actually, you know what? Take it. Whatever. He gave me the inspiration. It's fine. So that's
So you're
19 plus 3, 22, I guess.
22? All right.
Yeah.
22. So again, she looks at you quizzically and says, "You have believed everything they have told you. We do not want the undead. They made them." And she looks to Lady Mishante and Lady Shan. "We want the truth." And the head flops back, and the eyes are closed.
Question: can I do a religion check to see if we believe in the afterlife? I mean, if there's an afterlife in Thala?
One is not needed for a religion check for that. In Thala, there are various forms of afterlife. In general, most souls that die on Thala are reincarnated on Thala. New souls are born as well. Some travelers might come from other spheres on Spelljammers, and if they die in Thala, they will be reincarnated on Thala. It is common amongst the Drow to, if they live long enough, to ascend to the Undying Court. The numbers of the Undying Court are not enormous in that many of the elves, those of elven nature, live for a very long time anyway, and people move around and do lots of things, and Thala is an enormous planet, and it is also a choice whether or not one does want to ascend to the Undying Court of the Archfey, or try and see what a new life might be like as something else. So, in the state of, shall we say, between life and death, the people that watch over or the god that would sort of watch over the transitioning souls, as it were, would probably be Chetan, which would be the dragon god of that is basically the avatar of the force of good.
Okay, I was just curious, unless they return to like the roof, just go fade into energy or whatever. I was making sure that doesn't happen. Like, it's like they just go poof, so we don't see them in the afterlife, because I know there's no heaven or hell here.
Yeah.
Question. I would like to turn around to Lady Sean and the others
Mm-hmm.
and see what their reaction is to this piece of information. I'll watch their faces carefully.
Sure. You're welcome to make an insight check.
Try to peer for Lady Shantae's mask. I'm watching her face very carefully behind the mask.
Oh, it's frozen. It looks like it was, oh, it's an 18 plus 2, 20, dirty 20.
All right. What you are able to sort of read on the emotions or face of Lady Shan, at least, is more confusion and pity, and also, because 20 is quite good, a sense of I don't know, like agitation in the sense of like, okay, we're doing this and this is necessary, but we have intruders right now, so I hope this doesn't take that long. From Lady Meshante, she is floating there, and you see no movements, no sign of anything, just her porcelain mask with the smile.
Out of curiosity, would I have to roll like a history check or something? But does Dude's been part of the the growers for as long as he can remember.
Mm-hmm.
Does he kind of could he like make a guess that an estimate, from his research and history and the stories of old, how old each one of the guild masters are? Some of them, if they've been around for like as far as back as records go, or has there been like changing ones, like if he's known any of the ones
Sure.
before them?
Yeah, I would say you can roll a history check if you'd like.
Give me something good.
Meanwhile, while Du is thinking back on these things, what would you like to do with the body of the woman that is laid out before you?
I would probably close her eyes if it's still open and make sure she's laid to rest. And also I would look at my lady Mishante, and I would say, before we go on this trip, is it all right if I just drop her off at her parents, or must we take this journey immediately?
I do not believe there is time to waste, Salome. We will contact House Mentan. Matron Fowler will want to know of this, but there is so much going on out there right now that her body will be taken care of, I can assure you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that that is handled before we go on our trip, or at least somebody will handle it. She is still family.
Yes.
17.
17 for a history check. Yeah, you know, the records are pretty good as far as things go. You know that the bringers as such have been around since at least as long as Thala. They originated as different forms of tribes, essentially, each of them more with a fervent worship of one of the deities, and they sort of were brought together during great wars by a leader who really had a firm belief in that it's not just the will of one of the gods we should be enforcing, it's the will of all of the gods. And they became a tribe. So, but that is usually it's the leader is always called a general. They often die in battle. For the keepers, there is a lot of history there, but not all of it is necessarily known to you. But for at least as long as Miranzan has been around, it has been Meshante. The growers, yeah, they're very old as well, as far as you know. Stories, at least, of Lady Oxala and Lord Colel date back a very long time. They are arch-fae, and yeah, a lot of the lore of the growers comes more from times of sort of following and traveling across Thala in the wake of Quetzal, which is the god of chaos, and just sort of like nurturing this new growth that has sprung up wherever Quetzal comes. There is with Tharisdun, for the knowers, you know, it's difficult to say, mostly because it's a being that has sort of general ideas about when it arrived here. Yeah, so, but as far as age, you know, it's hard to say. You could definitely place that Lady Shan should be relatively old. So should Meshante and Ixalo and Kalel, and definitely Tharisdun. The Archmage of the Enders, Magnus Gaban, who is a Baelnorn, he has been in charge of the guild for the last 1,000 years. He succeeded the last guild leader once he had assassinated her and absorbed her mission and her soul to become the new Baelnorn in charge of the Guild of Enders. Nice big lore dump for everybody there.
Well, that was neat. Well, I guess we as Lady Meshante said, no time to lose. Let's go show them what happens when you shake up the guilds, right, guys?
Oh,
You know,
what is that question, Adrian? Because that just made me think. Is that thing that they were doing during the speech, that like who is that, like a only in that, or is that like a bigger thing, like a bigger rallying call amongst all of Miranzan?
It is there is history to it. There is history to it. It during the sort of pushbacks 2,000 years ago, of when the ravenous hordes of undead were kind of running into the city and they were being pushed back it became, there was it's not necessarily known who it was, but there was a soldier who started rallying the people and doing this cry, and it sort of inspired everyone and became like
Gotcha.
something that kept on for the past 2,000 years.
Well, that seemed like a hoo-hoo moment.
Yeah. All right.
It's time to do a community surfers, guys, and take out the trash.
Excellent. So you all begin following the guild leaders as you are led sort of out through the room where you are now and down into one of the main libraries, and you are led to a specific staircase, which, Lady Salome, you know the staircase, you know that the record's down there, and you would have definitely seen the barrier once or twice. So you know where you're going, but the winding marble staircase leads you down into a grand open hallway at which you can see at its sort of end, there is this yellow, thick, shimmering energy field. And on two sides of this massive open room, there are two arcane circles on either side of it. The size of the arcane circles are just gargantuan. They are about, I would say the radius of each is about 40 feet. So it's about an 80-foot diameter across each of these arcane circles on the side there. And Meshante takes up one slot on the left, and Sean takes up one slot on the right. And they turn to look at you, and Sean says, "Remember, you have 1 hour. Otherwise, you will be in there for a week." And I was hoping to keep this bit of surprise until later, but well, you are going to find out eventually. And she turns to face the field, sort of standing in the center of her circle, as does Lady Meshante. And two things happen at the same time. It will describe them one by one. Lady Meshante, you see that her hand comes up and she removes her porcelain mask, and the hood that she has with the sort of almost jester-like crown of leather falls back, and she shakes out very long, sort of like, it's a very deep brown, but it's not verging on black, but it's a deep brown, long hair, and she has long pointed ears, and she has skin sort of the color of mahogany. It's very, very, very deep brown. And all of you make out that her elven features are very reminiscent of drow features, but also very, very different at the same time. It is if perhaps this is a form of elf that you are unaware of. It is entirely possible. And she takes the mask off, and she sort of shakes her hair out, and she is absolutely stunning. She is gorgeous beyond belief. And she attaches the mask to a sort of belt on her hip and raises her hands, and out of her starts pouring this sort of crystalline blue energy which encompasses her entire body and then begins to fill up the entire circle until this is just this raging torrent of arcane blue light that you cannot see. You can just barely make out her form inside the center. It's sort of like shadowed in different lights. And at the same time, you see that Lady Shan begins to, her entire body begins to glow in a coppery golden tone and to stretch and move and grow, and you see enormous outlines of wings appear and a massive long scaled body and a feathered tail as she transforms into the form of an ancient copper dragon, feathered and scaled in tones of slight bronze and copper, and she breathes in and then lets out a breath of some kind of arcane force, which fills the circle with a bronze-colored arcane light, which streams up. Before we go to the next section, would everyone tell me what is their passive perception?
12.
14.
13.
16.
Okay.
It keeps exiting out.
And Asa?
He's the rogue, so it's 20.
Passive perception of
Nice.
20. All right. So, Tuxil and Asta,
13.
Tuxil and Asta, you notice just before the Lady Shan in her full draconic form lets out the arcane breath weapon, that close to the feathering that appears around her neck where her massive draconic head connects, you can see ever so slightly what appears to be faint green crackles of energy, but in her skin, and it's not the kind of thing you would associate with anything pleasant. It looks like it is something painful. And
Like
but
it's
you
painful to her?
yes. So
Question,
Yes.
DM. One with a passive perception of 13, did Sashi notice this?
not quite.
Okay. Then I guess my second question I will leave. for
Okay.
another time.
All right. The enormous forces of arcane energy fill the room with this different colored light, and you see this thick curtain of yellow energy barrier begin to open up into space enough that the six of you would be able to walk through. What would you like to do?
Is basically the hour now started?
Yes.
Move on in.
I'll
All
follow
right.
Shock and stay close to Shock.
Okay.
For the
You-
guild, for
now.
Fala. Runs in.
All
For the
right.
next hour.
You
Um,
make your yes.
I want to be the last one in if nobody is against that, and I would look at my my lady and I would give her a bow and then go in.
Excellent. stepping through the very thick energy field in this doorway that has been made for you, you can see that it is at least 2 feet thick. This energy barrier that surrounds it. You step through, and there is a little bit more of, shall we say, this very large sort of hallway that extends before there are some steps which are leading down, and you can just make out these steps go on for maybe 20 feet down, and there is a stone archway which is carved in the standard sort of like ziggurat ish structure here, sort of like stepped to the top. It doesn't have a door on it, it is just an archway to go down.
And that's really the, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the archway, the language on it, is it one that I recognize? Is this similar to something we may have seen before?
Yes, it is the traditional style of most buildings here in Moranzen, where it is the glyphs which are written in the common sort of pictograms that are there, and this one is quite simple. It just says something like what is it? Those signs that you see sometimes at when you're going into like parks, national parks and stuff. Leave only footprints, take only pictures, kind of stuff. But it's different. It's more along the lines of
Is this like a picture? sort of
take
thing?
only knowledge, leave only footprints.
Does
That's
it
what you
appear
can
like
read
we're
there.
going back underground again?
The building is you're going down for sure. The building is quite tall, quite high up, and quite high down, but you're still inside a building.
Okay. Is there any windows?
No
No.
windows down here,
Yes.
no. No windows down here. All right. Is everyone going down the steps?
Yeah, I was like, fine. You know, they say, fortune favors the bold. Off to an adventure.
Okay. So who is in the lead? It was Chuck was in the lead, followed by Dew.
I'll be third.
All right.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
The more claustrophobic it begins to feel, the closer Tuxel is going to stick to Shock.
Currently, the space here is very high ceilings and very
Still.
wide open. All right. So
She can't feel the wind. It's terrible.
you reach the bottom of the staircase, and there is now you can see into the room on the other side of this archway. And from your perspective, as it opens into the room, you can see a number of things. You can see that there is an enormous, well, there are two at least. There are two enormous platinum golems which seem to be frozen in a state of being about to hit something. In the middle of these platinum golems, you can see that there is a small circular orb on the ground, which appears to be glowing with a green light. And you can also see, so this room itself is, it's about 40 wide by, 40 by 30, sort of a rectangle like that. Length and width? Yeah, 40 by 30. On the left-hand side wall, you can see that the wall has a perfectly like a concave indentation into it. Completely smooth. It's not cracked, there's nothing through there, but it is as if a semicircular indentation has been taken, well, a concave indentation has been taken out of that wall. And then across the way, you can see the other doorway, which leads further on. There is what appears to be a body that has been beaten to a pulp. And this is the scene that you have before you.
Does the orb on the ground look like it's the same circumference that it would fit into the hole in the wall?
Not
Or
at
the
all.
concave of the wall? No.
Not at all. The concave in the wall, make an investigation check. Or if you'd like, it can be straight investigation. Intelligence.
18.
18. All right. So looking at the shape that has been taken out the wall, you sort of think that if this were a bubble, like a sphere, it would probably be about a 10-foot diameter.
That right? Why is the
But the orb on the ground is just a bit bigger than a baseball.
so is the
Zosh- oh,
is the orb on in like indent in the wall? Is that supposed to like look kind of like a key to open up another door?
So the wall itself, the indentation is quite large, right? It looks as if, you know, if you took a sphere that was 20 foot in diameter and it would fit into that indentation in the wall. The orb that is in the middle of the two golems is only about baseball sized, and it is
Can
on
we
the
walk
ground.
past the can we walk past the golems and just go to another room? Or is we just ended at this room?
There is a door. There is a door exiting this room, which you see slumped against the doorway. That there is a body that looks as if it was beaten to a pulp.
Oh,
Yeah, the Zashi, when they see the body, are absolutely going to run up towards it and use Hand of Healing. Well, can I assess if they're dead or still? Are they dead or are they mostly dead? Or are they still?
They have a massive squished indentation in their chest, and you can, with your medical training, you can judge that it is roughly about the shape of one of the massive clubs that these platinum golems have. You know, he's dead, Jim.
In that case, I'm not gonna waste the
Yeah.
key point.
But coming
on
up
it.
closer to the body, you do see that this body is cloaked and hooded in the same way as the assailants outside, with a key difference. The robe hood, well, hood cloak that they are wearing is not made up of 3 sections of fabric. It is made up of 5. But it is the coloration, it is the sort of not very nice looking purple, the off-white, and the sort of burnt yellow, and then the purple again, and then the white.
Yeah, Zashi's gonna
All different fabrics.
pull the body back to the main group and strip the cloak and whatever else they can find off of it.
All right. Pulling the cloak off, you can see that the face covering is sort of again inbuilt into it. As you pull the cloak off, you notice that the figure that is there looks as if could have been male. Also appears to be drow. And Lady Salome, you do not recognize this person as being one of the nobility per se, but you can make a history check if you like.
Yeah, I would like to make a history check.
Is there anything in our pockets?
13?
13. You're not really sure exactly, but you think that this person is one of relates to one of the wealthier merchants in the Undercity. That's the best that comes to your mind for now. Tuxel, you want to check the pockets? Go ahead and make an investigation check. If anyone would like to assist Tuxel with this, you're welcome to. I believe, Shashi, you were stripping things off as well, so either you can make independent checks or one of you can make it with advantage.
Let's see, I have a +2.
I have a +3.
Go for it. I'm helping you out.
Okay. All right, so me rolling with advantage, is that what we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That would be a 19, so that's a 21. No, yeah, 19 plus 3 is a 22. 22. Second
All
math.
right. All right. So you take off the cloak and the sort of like covering garments and all of that, and two things do stand out to you, is that the boots that this individual has on, they are very nice looking, and they seem to be sort of embroidered a little bit with fine designs of like which is common in the Undercity, of sort of like a spiderweb motif, because once the drow had sort of chosen their path of coming down from the surface in order to excavate the archaeological knowledge of Thala, they began, domesticating and working a lot more with spiders, and there's been a very beneficial and helpful relationship with them all. So they honor each other. So there is a lot of this sort of like spider-like motif. On Thala, it has absolutely nothing at all to do with Lolth or anything like that. But they look very well made, very interesting. And you also notice that once you do peel off the leather armor that this person is wearing, you can see the caved in chest, but the armor itself is undamaged. And it has also sort of very interesting wave-like motifs, which are sort of etched into it. Other than that, you do find a coin purse that contains 50 gold pieces and a frequent shopper's discount card for wares.
I would like to cast Detect Magic.
Sure. Well, I should mention that this person also happens to have 2 daggers on them, and Detect Magic. Yes, when you cast Detect Magic, there is a both the boots and the armor are magical.
I call Lady Salome over.
Mm-hmm.
The boots and the armor, they're both magic. The dagger, too. Does this look familiar?
Question to the DM, does it look familiar to me, or do I have to roll?
Oh, sorry, the daggers are not magical.
Oh, I thought the daggers
Yeah,
were.
no,
Sorry.
no, no. The daggers are just daggers. Do they look familiar to you? Who is trained in Arcana in our group?
Not me. I mean, I have
I'm
plus
okay.
1 Arcana, I
I'm not-
guess.
I don't
I
have
I have
proficient.
I have quite a bit of
I
Arcana.
have. I got Jack of all trades, so I'm kind of halfway in between mastery and not.
All right, so I will let Chalk and Do, you could make an Arcana check. Lady Salome, you might have heard it in the history books. I'll let you make a history check if you like.
Cool.
I
While
only
they're
got an
looking
11.
closer,
11.
do I
Okay.
get a sense of what the boots do?
24.
24.
15, sir.
Ooh.
15. Okay, Chuck, you're not entirely sure. With Dew, you've seen these kind of boots before. Actually, you knew a person who actually had a pair just like them. You're pretty sure those will let you like walk on the ceiling if you spend some time attuning to them. They're boots of spider climb. Lady Salome, you recognize the boots of spider climb from history books and stuff, and this armor, this leather armor, it's slightly different, but you spend a bit of time looking at the way things are inscribed into it, and this is known as mariner's armor.
Okay.
Both items do require attunement as far as I know, but they are available to you.
Hey, Chalk, can I borrow your walking staff real quick?
That's a big ask.
Well, I mean, you can lean on me. I just want, I wanted something to poke.
I take him up on that.
Okay,
I offer my shoulder to Chalk for him to lean on.
yeah, I was because I mean, he just wanted to use it so he could poke the. He wanted something to poke the like magic ball to see if anything negative happens. He goes, it's like we've touched things. It's like we've touched magic stuff we haven't before, right, Chuck? Like
Yeah.
the good old days. Pokes it. Does anything happen to him?
Dew has Chalk's walking stick, which is sort of covered in some mushrooms in very interesting fashion, and you are getting close enough so that you can poke this orb. Close enough to the orb itself, you can see that it does appear to be made out of some kind of metal, perhaps, which has a slightly bluish, slightly blackish tint to it. The metal, and it has these green seams of light around it, where the sort of green glow is emanating from, and you poke the sphere and it rolls a little bit.
Okay, well that was fine. Since Chuck's still on Dew's shoulder, he gives that back to him. He's like, "Well, that seemed like it's not going to kill us."
I still detect magic up. Does this
Mhm.
thing sparkle for me?
Yes, it does, actually. It does. It is giving off the school of abjuration and transmutation.
Well, I'm glad I guess I'm glad that none of us touched that with our bare hands. Don't worry, I got it from here, ladies. He claps his hands, and this red cloak like creature pops and he throws a red cloak over this creature, goes and I was like, "Go ahead, Red Eye, go pick up the orb for us."
Your unseen servant
Yeah.
picks up the orb, and it has the orb in its possession.
Awesome. That's nice.
Bring it closer. Let me take a good look.
Brings it to her. Let's look at it.
Perception.
Perception? Okay.
Investigation. Maybe investigation.
Maybe Arcana because it's magical.
It depends what you want to which information you want to try, go through it. If
a
you
good
are,
question.
if you're handling it yourself, I will let you give it an investigation check. If you want to let the unseen servant turn it around for you and have a look at it, then we'll go for perception.
That's a 24.
Okay. So you can, as I mentioned, you can see that it is made out of some kind of metal which has a sort of dark bluish blackish tint to it, and there are seams which cover the there's a seam around the middle, and then there are sort of like two seams that go across the top like that, and it doesn't look as if there are arcane inscriptions or anything that you can recognize in that sense. But with your 22, you judge that it looks as if it can be manipulated and turned in different fashions.
So it's like the map from Treasure Planet.
Dope reference.
I
Yeah, that's what you get. With your 22, you'd be fairly confident of how you'd go about turning it, although you're not really sure like what the effects would be, etc.
I think I can open it. Should I open it?
Well, considering that it seemed like Zashi was able to get to the door and go to the other room, I can have Red Eye carry that for us to look at into that orb later. But I mean, as long as the iron golems don't want to fight us, we probably should continue on, since we are
On
time
a time,
sensitive.
time constraint.
As he looks at his non-existent watch, looks at his wrist.
Around
Okay.
5 minutes have passed since you've entered.
What is the composition of the ground?
The ground is made out of the same marble that you find upstairs.
Is it dusty?
No,
Well, that's neat.
it is not dusty.
Would you all like to continue then? Because so if you want to stay, Red Eye can walk next to you if you'd like that. Just imagine like a red hooded figure with a mask on, because apparently Jew likes to see the unseen servant for some reason.
I need to know you're there. I feel you, buddy. I feel you.
Comforting.
All right.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So is everyone progressing through the door at the other end of the chamber?
Yep.
All right. I will say that with your detect magic up, which lasts for 10 minutes, that area of the wall that has a chunk taken out of it, it does give off like a residue that magic was used there, but you're unable to tell the school.
Okay, fair.
So you head to the other door where the dead figure was slumped on it, and written above it there is a set of basically simple instructions, which you'd be able to figure out what they are referring to pretty easily. But it says simply, do not disturb those that are slumbering.
Good advice.
Start tiptoeing.
All right.
Is it an actual door?
No, it's an archway.
Doorway.
Just
Yeah.
an archway.
Mm-hmm.
Does the archway shimmer?
No, you can, when you get close enough to the archway, you can see that it leads out for a little bit, and then suddenly, if you're going to walk through it, because it's quite thick, once you walk through it, you can see that it opens out completely onto the sides, and you are on what looks to be around about a sort of a 20-foot long stone walkway with no sides. It is about 15 feet across, and after those 20 feet, there is it sort of splits into a circular pathway around which there is a hole, and then there is another 20 feet of walkway, and then you can see an archway on the other side there, which leads into a room. And when you do step through, everyone can make a perception check for me, please.
Wait.
Natural
It's a
20.
natural 20 for 26.
Nice.
Perception.
Roll 20's been really nice to me today. I love it. For D&D Beyond.
15 for me.
All right.
12.
Okay.
17.
All right.
Y'all did really good.
7.
7.
It was almost an 8. It was almost a base 18. It would have been 21.
Mm.
Almost.
And how about yours there, Asa?
16.
16. All right. Do you don't take in everything that everyone else takes in? You are kind of looking at the space and distance between you all and your next objective, which seems to be that other archway across the way. So you take in the walkway and the curve and the hole in the middle and all of that. Everyone else, you also notice that the space, the open space on the sides around you, goes up very, very high up, at least 100 feet. And it also goes very, very far down. Like down would be, gosh, around 300, around a 300-foot drop if you had to fall off here. But those of you who rolled 15 and higher, you can also make out that there is another level below you, also of these walkways. And Tuxil, and also and those who rolled 15 and above, what you also notice is that there are just at the periphery and very low light at the edges of these rooms and these spaces, sort of floating in the distance, there are just stacks and stacks of coffins, but sort of stone coffins that are just floating on the side, all up and down. And Tuxil, with your natural 20, you take all of that in, and something else you take in is you can smell blood. And you can also see some droplets of blood beginning sort of in the halfway point where the hole is that goes down, where there is the circular part of the walkway. You can see some droplets of blood from that far, and you see that following your eyes, because it's not dark here, it's lit, but it's sort of like a lowish light, not super low light, but it's not bright, shall we say. That some of the droplets of blood are there's a bit more blood the closer you get to the other door.
Everybody freeze. Everybody freeze.
Let's just hear everyone stop.
Back up slowly.
Ding, ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding.
There's blood on the walkway, and this cavern's full of coffins.
I'm expecting this is the sleeping chamber for the vampires. There was blood, and there was that one guy that died and smashed to smithereens on in the doorway. I don't think it's very questionable that there's blood here too. Someone else probably died by somehow.
I could be wrong. Would that be an Arcana check, history check? That if these vampires need blood?
It's well known that they do need blood.
Okay.
But and this is something that the knowers organize actually very well around the city for the vampires that are part of the community, etc. There are blood drives, etc. So it is not the kind of thing where they stalk around. Vampires are an accepted part of the community, except for the ones that aren't, and those probably wouldn't be in Thala, or at least not easily.
Or ones that were trying to sleep and are now getting woken up by the smell of a delicious snack. I can fly in a little further and see if you want me to.
And more information is better, always. So far, it seems like this is to be expected. At least everyone seems to still be sleeping.
No.
Is there any sound?
Are you sure, Texel, you're comfortable if you want to go in there alone?
Any
Because if anything bad
sound?
happens,
I can fly, so I don't have to touch the walkway.
We're going to continue your natural 20. You can hear distantly. You can almost pinpoint. It seems there's some kind of sound further down, much more to the back of this grand open structure. Because it was a natural 20, maybe just with the echoes and what you you think it might be on the second level down.
Below us.
Yeah, but it's relatively far away from you.
Does anybody else hear that?
Hear what?